and I'm very excited. I thought that these last 3 chapters were very, very important, very essential, and we're gonna talk about it. I have notes. That's how I have notes. Okay, I'm ready. All right, I got notes. I got questions. I got theories, speculations, personal anecdotal stories, everything. Okay. So, shout out to YouTube. This will be on YouTube later. We are going to be talking about In My Delusions Part 1, 2, and 3. And man, this this I don't think is debatable. It's the most powerful side story I think she's done. But I also got to add this caveat. I'm probably still gonna make a video about this on its own, just for the Kubera fans who don't want to sit through like an hour discussion and whatnot. But I don't believe you could not read these side stories. Like, I know they're side stories and whatnot, but I believe that they are absolutely integral to understanding Kubera's narrative from top to bottom and the things that the characters have gone through. To the point that even if you've read every single chapter, let's say there's 1,000 Kubera chapters by the end, you read every single chapter and you've never read any of the side stories, you have not completed the series. You are missing vital information and vital key moments, character motivations and events in time that would allow you to actually understand the story from top to bottom fully. I argue that I don't want people to take this the wrong way. I'm not saying that the main story is not great or anything, but it plays the long game, the slow IV drip, where it doesn't reveal that much quickly. Like it's a long drawn out mystery with a bunch of new mysteries added as we solve one. And I really think that the side stories have been a lot more revealing than anything else. We've learned so much about this series with these subsequent side stories and some other stuff with Wish and the other ones that we got beforehand. Before, I think in season 3 it was as well. But yeah, it's too important. He said he did paperwork. Send the notes over. Glam, I believe, just woke up. He should be joining me soon. Miles has some personal family stuff to do with, so he can't be here today. But we will run back a discussion for him when it's all said and done. And I am a little bit excited about the fact that we are done with the side stories and going back to possibly present time with Kubera and Kubera. We'll see. But first question to you guys, if you had to guess, which Primeval did you guys think told Ananta that he had the power to, like, the right and the ability to travel through time, and granted him that ability alongside Manasa? Are most people in the camp that it was Callie who did it? Because they briefly talk about the fact that Callie, there's actually a fourth primeval god that may be still in the other universe, but as she comes to here, it's going to sow dissension, it's going to sow doubt, it's going to cause disorder, it's going to cause chaos and things like that. Is that what we're thinking still, or does anyone think it was Brahma? I think the one that we could actually excel entirely for some reason is Shiva. I don't think Shiva cares, so I don't think it was him. I think Brahma possibly has the least amount of personal reason to do that, but I would argue it was between Kali and Vishnu. I think it was Vishnu personally, and I think Vishnu was lying about the fact that I think he brought up the Kali thing to just cause Ananta to overthink. What's up, bro? You up? You awake? You alerted?
No, but I'm here.
King of the land.
Yes, sir.
That's a W, by the way. It counts.
Yes, it does.
It counts. That's. I don't know. If that's the only time they fought, but that's one. That's one OD. That's one to Yaksha. Put it on the board. I thought it was Kali. Yeah, I thought it was Kali because she would want him to rewind and undo Manasa beating the universe devouring monster. Interesting. I sometimes think that Kali and Vishnu might be one and the same. That's kind of funny because, like, I've had that thought where I'm like, I wonder if they're just like they're like two sides of the same coin, but really they're like a low key, like, you know how they call like some like R's like rhinos, Republican in name only, but they're part of the Uniparty. Like they're just working together, blaming each other, but they're not. But really, when no one's looking, they're having stakes in like the God realm. Like, remember when we tricked that dumb green hair bitch? Like, oh man, they're just. I don't know, but anyways, okay. So my first question is, do we believe that this was always the plan? Or do we really believe that like the 10 billion years or whatever were like a true experiment? They weren't particularly sure. I asked this because I wonder if Manasa was never intended to truly be the time axis of the universe. Do you believe that this was all meant to happen, or it just happened to shape this way? What do you think?
I don't think the gods had any idea that Manasa wasn't going to work as the time axis.
Okay. I think I'm in.
Just
I think I'm
because,
in that. I think I'm in that camp as well. I don't. But like, I wonder why. Like, because they would have to have given Ananta his name and whatnot, and the power usually comes
yeah.
from the name. So they made him obviously extremely powerful for some reason. I wonder why. Was that because she needed someone to? They needed a check and balance for her in case she turned rogue or something. Like I think about all these things. I do think the case could be made that it was always intended for Ananta to take her spot, but I don't know how to argue that, but I think you probably could make that case. But what do you think?
Well, it's because I don't think it was intended that she should die immediately because all the gods, including Vishnu, even initially were like, "What the hell is Ananta talking about?" When he turned back time and all. So his ability to control time, in which we see, is not something that he's supposed to have from the beginning. Vishnu teaches him that a little bit, as does Manasa a little bit
But
after a
it
certain point.
but it is stated that he has the right to do it. So it's not
Yes.
so you could argue that there's people who don't have that right to do it.
Although this could also be because I think we've seen it enough times now where the primeval gods don't know everything there is to know about their creations.
Mhm.
Like we just saw with Shuri that they debated whether or not the super aura that makes people do what she wants was an error or not.
Okay.
That's how almost concerning it was. I think Ananta was given the name, and that was probably a byproduct of getting the name, but they didn't think that. I don't think that they thought that there would be two creatures that they would make that would be able to be time accesses, or even more than that, maybe.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because I actually think that there is still a current time axis, and we might have had it change hands a couple times since Ananta's death.
Mhm. You said you feel it was intended. Fair enough. The thing about Ananta who thought it was the Vishnu but don't know why was really intriguing to me. I agree with that. Just talent that needed to be honed. That's how some people have seen it, where it's like that ability was always in him, but maybe without someone telling him, he would never know. And then this kind of leads into my next question about Manasa. I want to talk about her for a bit because as much as like she wasn't in the story that long, I still feel like the role that she held at some point was like the role of almost universe protector. So it's very important, especially since this was his mate. So I want to talk about her a little bit. But I think it's implied that she knows something about the Primevals that pisses her off. Because when they appear on screen, she gets like visually angry, and then like calms down and smiles at Ananta, and Ananta's like, I know what that means. Why did she react that way? Like, what do you think she possibly could know if you think she knows anything? Just
I think
spitballing.
I think she's angry the same way Ananta was at the end of the side story. The gods don't really patience. It's just about the overall goal of making sure life can stay consistent and not snuff itself out. The specific people in it they're not really cared about.
Or the quality of life may not matter to them. They
Yeah.
just care about the time, the length that the universe goes. Like,
Yes.
can we hit 200 billion years? Oh, that's better than 10 billion. And it's like everybody's life sucked from birth to death. But like we get 10 billion, run it up, you know? So okay, fair enough. All right. I think that's a good answer. I There's a part of me that thinks she knows something deeper or more about them because like I don't think they're I don't want to say they're good or evil necessarily. I think that's a lazy way to look at them. I understand why people look at them that way, but I just think like they're divorced from the concept in that sense because they're just gods that create, destroy, and like shape a universe, and that's all they're kind of programmed to do in some ways. I don't think they're particularly concerned with people's personal feelings on the matter, especially if their personal feelings has no bearing or impact on the length and the universe ongoing. So even if my life would suck from the day I'm one to day 600 year 605, they're like he's not important. Whether he lives or dies today or tomorrow doesn't affect the universe. Who effing cares? I think they look at it that
Yep.
way, and I can understand why someone think that's like a bad guy thing, but I think like beings like that, they just don't have the level of morality that we do. And like I always say, I think one thing that's always overlooked in a lot of these series is how much lifespan will do that to you when you don't die, when you're immortal, when you can just live for billions and billions of years. You're not gonna look at life as something precious and sacred to that degree. The reason that we care about life so much is because there's so much death, and we have like what's the average life expectancy for North American male? Like 66, something like that. Like our time here is limited, so we care about this stuff more. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep. I agree.
Mhm.
I'll just
Uh,
say about Manasa, that woman is now on the same level of short time important character as Saha and Yaksha to me.
I feel that.
Even with just a side story. If she
I
was actually in the story,
Yeah,
I can only imagine how well written
and
Manasa
that
would be. Just from the little we've seen.
fair enough. Lee's might be the new Time Axis. I think you could also argue maybe in conjunction with Maruna a little bit, but
That's
I think
literally,
that's
yep.
fair. Damn, she can't even rest in peace. I'm saying she got her existence erased, split in body and mind, and that's like, what do I catch? The soul, I guess. He be catching souls out here. This is why I thought that Primeval showed up. Ananta Manasa did have a good run in the universe. Primevals just bring change and consequences in the universe, which might be good or bad. It feels like the Primevals are playing with a life simulator and watching it play out, kind of like they're playing Sims or something, or like a game where like you create all the characters, like RPG Maker, and they're making everything. Oh, this is not it. Just delete this whole section of the game, you know. So I understand that. Okay. Um, do you guys believe that there's a possibility of Manasa being mentioned in the main narrative at any given point? Or do you think she
Ooh.
will always be relegated to the side story? Because I find that her existence and being Anata's only mate is actually quite important. But I don't necessarily think it has to be like I don't know. I just I guess to start there. Like, do you foresee her even being mentioned or named up at all in the main narrative or no?
I don't know, man. Like, it's really hard to tell for a lot of these side story shits. We'll probably get into that when we get into Shiva, because you and I have been beating that motherfucking drum for a while. But like,
Yeah,
it'd be nice
I
to.
think the caveat that she has that saves her is I think she said that Shiva wouldn't be in the main story or something. She said something else apparently. So maybe I just misinterpreted it or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, with this was enough for me. Like, he in the story.
Yeah,
He's saying words. He got facial expressions. He got gags. He's like blaming me from like 10 billion years ago. Was like ridiculous. Like, I have enjoyed the very little that I've seen of him, and he big as hell. So.
Shiva will not be in the story, except that I'm going to characterize the shit out of him in this one side story.
And oddly enough, like, I think he's the most straightforward one.
He's
I think
already my favorite Primeval, and it's not even close.
it's that's hilarious. See, Miles and I were talking about that, and like I said the same thing where it's like it's not even necessarily he's the best or the worst one, whatever the case is. Like, I actually like Callie. You know, I like Callie. Callie is like my second favorite one, and she's the one that I think gets bad prop. She gets bad press. Not to say she's a good person. I just think the press she gets is bad. But Shiva has the cigar thing going on. It's not to say Shiva's a nice individual. He just like, bro, it's pissing me off. I'll destroy it. But he wears his emotion on his sleeve. I understand him. I don't have to. I don't think I have to think and guess about what he could be scheming under the hood. His personality is very much out there. Sagara might be a dirty little cheat or whatever, but she's not doing the Ganhavra thing where they're trying to act and feign like they're good people. I'll always respect that more. So Shiva very quickly became my favorite Primeval. But granted, I don't really like them in general. I don't like them. I'd be on my Kratos gimmick. Kill the guys. I gotta get them out of here. I'm not trying to see them. I want them gone. So she's just one person's delusion. Okay, fair enough. I think we can have scenes with Sagara that invokes Manasa, but it will not be Manasa's info. Uh tell explicit by others. Okay. I was talking about Lee's. What if what Ketan said was true? Wait, what did you say earlier? Did I miss something? Hold on.
Lee's is the Axis, maybe, or
Oh,
something.
time access. Yeah, I mean, I think Maruna is also part of that. Depends
Although I
on
don't
what.
even think necessarily that either of them are the Axis fully right now.
Yeah.
I think the
But
person I think Kubera is a bigger candidate
fair.
for that.
Depends on what we get with Leeds when she time travels, but I think Manasa might get a scene later on. All right, Manasa. All right. I just want to know that. So I think that Anata's character arc is interesting because it mirrors Manasa's arc a lot. I wouldn't say it repeats, more so than I would say it rhymes, but it is interesting to see him fall through. I guess fall in all the pitfalls of this, and that's why I asked this question. I don't remember if we already talked about this. We might have a little bit. I don't remember, so my bad for repeating this. But do we think that do you think that she was warning him not to use the power as like I don't think it was I don't think it was a jealousy thing is what I'm saying. I think it was like, oh, it's my thing. This is what I do. I think she knows what it does to a person when you're trying to fix like a big event, and then sometimes it's like, even if you could create what I'll call the best outcome, it's still not great. Life was lost. Somebody's family was destroyed. You get what I'm saying?
I think she knew about the way that messing with time accumulates sins. Primarily, I think that's
Oh,
what she
okay,
was
that's
talking
fair.
about,
That's fair.
especially bystander sins. Is
Mm.
like what I think she was talking about majority wise, but also the psychology of it's probably factored in there too.
Mm.
But I think it's
Oh,
mainly a sin thing.
when we said Lees, I thought we were all talking about like Time Lord Lees when she was like appearing when Yuta was passing away. That's what I meant. So I guess I didn't clarify. So
Time Lord leaves.
that's yeah. I don't know. Like she knows she's came.
that she fucking folds 4th stage Yuta in the future. It was like what?
Yeah. Yeah, she knew the consequences of that of using that power. I think I agree with that. That's how I'm looking at it. Where like this is it's like there are certain abilities I always tell people I wouldn't want. And time travel and mind reading are always been two things I would never want to do. Because I don't think I'd be able to resist the temptation to do it, but I think it would just cause more problems than it would solutions. I always tell just give me the speed force and I'm happy. I promise you I'm happy. Just give me the speed force. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. Okay. I like to go fast. All right, I just want to run fast, man. Primeval gods go Kali, Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva, and I go Shiva. It goes Shiva, Kali, Vishnu, Brahma for me. So okay, let's talk about Shiva. First of all, she lied. He in the story.
Liar, straight up liar.
He's here. He's here. So erasing existence, right? So he Hakkai'd Manasa, which I
Listen,
thought was
man.
awesome. Man, I popped off, bro. I thought it was great.
I legitimately might have to start the campaign that Shiva is actually top one of the verse with erasing existence. Because like I don't give a damn. Like this shit.
I think it surprised me in the sense where it's like I don't know where we are with how powerful Manasa was when she was but with the universe devouring monster. And I think somebody earlier in the chat said that they think that this was a plan because Kali was Kali because Kali wanted the universe devouring monster to still exist and Manasa to not be a part of it. Not entirely sure where you guys fall there, but it was honestly awesome to see. Like I think I underestimated how like not I'm not saying I understand how much I like combat, but I think maybe because this is not a combat focused series, anytime you get something really cool like that, I think it stands out more and I appreciate it more. It kind of reminds me of Gintama. I appreciate the very more like serious melancholy arcs, but that have like greater ramifications for the overall verse. Because I spent so much time literally just dicking around, doing nothing, and pulling on the shoguns like underwear, And then like it got serious, and I think going through that slog makes you appreciate it more. So him doing this, I thought it might be the coolest thing I've seen in Kubera from an attack standpoint, honestly. And I wanted to give Yama credit for that one ability that he has that he can't like spam, but.
This is that on steroids.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, Primeval God go Cali. Wait, I think I read that already. This chapter is the reason Tierra laughed at you when he said Shiva video came out. This had actually finished in the Ross. Yeah, she deserves to clown me for that one. Fair enough. That video didn't even really do well, so it's okay. No one knows I made it. I could delete it, and no one will know. No one will know. I won't delete it. So Shiva,
you were still right in that video.
yeah.
Put him in the main story.
Yep. So Shiva does it cool, but does it? It's a problem. I'm joking. Indra has a problem. I got you. You can't type today. Listen, nah, Indra's not it, bro. I'm sorry.
Indra's not raw. Shiva is raw.
Yeah, Shiva tall. He's strong. He primeval, but
that motherfucker's character design is different.
Yeah, and this is why I think that this is why I think there's a power scaling video that we looked at, and I've always been comfortable putting Ananta at the top. But I think Manasa and the Primevals were Manasa now and the Primevals were I was never sure. I do think Ananta is generally just much more powerful than them in that sense. But now we know there's a technique they have that could deal with anybody, no matter essentially how powerful they are, and it completely like deletes them from the game and overwrites their and the coding in the game automatically shifts itself to make up for the fact that you were never there, type of thing. I think it's crazy. We do know we can't spam it. Instead, erasing existence has very specific conditions which it can be used under, and we don't know if there's any ramifications after the fact, but it is a powerful technique, and I thought it was dope to see. Good thing Kurigan puts limitations on broken abilities like that. Agreed. The panel of him looking down at Brahma, pissed off, is hilarious, and Brahma isn't even short. Yep. Indra was holding back, I'm telling you. Oh man, Indra. Okay, So what do I have here? Okay, so I said what the hell what did I write here? I hate when I can't write sometimes. Oh, Ananta's delusion. So I think I was totally spot on from the first chapter about why this was called what it was called, and I think the conversation with the gods crystallized this. Where I actually, I remember what to say. I actually think this goes a layer deeper, which is interesting because I think you could argue once erasing existence works, it affects everybody in the universe. That includes the Primevals.
Yeah.
It actually didn't seem to me that Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva realized what was happening.
Took
And
like
I
Vishnu a
think
second,
I
and then he
think
got it.
Vishnu. The point I want to make is I think Vishnu spoke about it because he understands what happens after that technique is used. If you explain it to him, then he can explain it to you matter of factly. I actually could argue that it seemed to me at least, I didn't know for sure that Vishnu knew that Ananta was specifically talking about this person named Manasa, who was the time axis, this and that, and the third. He just knew that that technique was used, and he knows how the universe will correct it, which is like, this is your delusion now. You're the only person who remembers that. It is no longer a truth of this universe. I thought that was a powerful moment.
I agree. I actually think a lot of the side stories in particular, I think this did a lot for Vishnu, character-wise, because you're getting to see a lot more of him. And he's still sort of enigmatic on where he lies. But there are portions in time in the story where you can tell that with specific people, he displays a level of emotion that the other primevals don't really do at different points in time. And I think I think through him being like sort of, because Vishnu kind of plays a role as like a world building device in this side story. I think you get to see a little bit more behind the veil of Vishnu's character through this side story because of it. And the delusion part was just, there's so much to talk about for this in regards to just Ananta.
Yeah.
But like,
we'll get there. We'll get there, I promise. Does anyone know which chapter the gods joke about Agni killing them and having a party? Oh no, I don't. I don't know off the top of it. There's only like very few series that I know like chapter numbers like that. One Piece to a certain point, and Tower of God. And if anything, like what I will say is I can usually remember the general vicinity. Like, okay, I might like know like this happens. Oh, when does Zahar appear? I'm pretty sure it's chapter 300 and 305-ish, and I might be like 3 off too early or 3 off too late, but I'm usually in the ballpark. I don't know what this series. I have no idea. Vishnu said to be the only Primeval who retains memories of previous universes, so it makes sense for him to know about Manasa. His insight is different. Okay, fair enough. I think them getting confused about Manasa's existence was also because her name was changed and recreated into new beings, kind of like people can't think of the old Taraka and old Eravata after what happened. Ananta Naga said the season 3 episode 556, I think. He knows. I remember it at the end of Shes's flashbacks. Don't remember the number of. So maybe Vishnu just generally knows. I wasn't saying he didn't. I just said that I think you could have made the case. I don't think he said anything super definitive that made him know. I know exactly who and what you're talking about, but I know the phenomenon and the technique and what would happen if these were the variables in place. That's kind of how. Yeah, go ahead.
I think for Vishnu, it was more like he was like Shiva and Brahma initially when Ananta told him, but as Ananta explained, he was like, oh, so that's what happened. And he got it much faster and understood it much quicker than they did, and probably put the pieces together after Ananta's explanation. I don't think any of the Primevals knew what happened as soon as he went back.
Yeah, which is interesting. So yeah, Sagara and Manasa Vince gets created, and then he has his delusion, and that's just very sad, you know. And by the way, Vishnu calling it a casual error, I thought it was kind of crazy, but you know, it is what it is. But I don't know if he remembers, but that remains to be seen. So, talking about Manasa possibly being evil, I thought was a little interesting conversation that they had, because he started to freaked out a little bit, and then I think Brahma says that just because we said that, she could have been super good and virtuous. We're just saying, like, you don't know because you were probably affected by all the changes in time, which I thought was interesting. I actually like that panel of them sitting on their little fucking cubes, just looking like Shiva. Just like, he got the ragged coat. He look raw, bro.
standing.
He look raw. Like he just looks cool to me. I don't know. So, see what chat's saying. Casual era. Oh, was it Kazo for real? Did I say Kazo? Did I
Who's he
read that wrong?
casual?
I thought no. I'm saying I said no. I'm saying maybe
In the
it said
story.
causal, not casual. I might have read.
I can't remember.
I might have misread that. That's my bad then. I can read. I promise. I can read.
Lies.
Causal report the causality. My fault. Yeah. I know what it means. I read casual. My fault. That's just me. I just
Yeah, it was
damn
just
it.
casual air.
Now I want to go correct the live reaction because I'm sure I read casual when I was doing it. So damn. Okay. Where am I now? Vishnu says, "What causal? Does you remember though?" It says Manasa being evil. Oh, the Shiva joke was kind of funny, but the 10 billion years attack was already. So Ananta becoming the time axis, right? What do we think about that? I know I did.
Obvious.
I know. That's a very like loaded question. I didn't explain anything, but I want you to take me where your mind goes first when I ask that question. What do you think about that?
My brain first went to connections to the god of time in Enemy. So when we first see what I think we all assume is the shedding, with the actual like snake persona there that was essentially worshipped as an evil god, similarly to what Ananta, because they called Nastikas evil gods sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that while not an attribute of magic, time is something that's given a same level of importance as the fundamental forces that make up the universe. So there is somebody that has control of and whose entire purview is that. And Ananta, I think, is that equivalent. And that's similarly what I saw. Like, Axis to me meant you're not a god, but your power over this thing is basically the same as the Astikas. Or or the fifth sense, essentially. That's where my brain first went to when I heard that.
They said the Primevals are insensitive, not insensitive. I don't know. They're mean. He was set up to fail from the beginning. The thing that I thought about immediately was I think it's interesting. I don't know if maybe this is just my headcanon. Maybe I interpreted this wrong, but I like the idea that he only became that because as soon as it happened, he went back in time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Where it's like, if like part of me wonders like, what if it happened? He just accepted it and didn't go back in time. Would they have to have just forced him to become that, or would he have still become that? Because like, to me, it came across as the creation of Sagara Manasavins plus him going back in time to find his mate kind of put him in the position that she was, and like everything rewrote itself immediately in that moment because he went back. And then it put him in the role as time axis of like the universe, which I think is interesting to think about.
I think he would have still been considered the Axis.
Yeah.
But the Primevals would have had to tell and teach him a lot more about it if he had not used the ability after Manasa died.
Yeah, so the end result the outcome would have been the same, but I guess just the events and how it goes would have been different.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. But okay, so does anybody in here think that Kali tricked the Great Snake?
There's a weird inconsistency in Vishnu's story when they say that.
Yeah.
Or when he hints at that, because he says that Kali is in another universe at the time when he's talking to Ananta about it.
Mm-hmm.
So either she had come earlier than Vishnu had thought she was.
But it definitely says causal error, by the way. I can't read. That's my fault.
Hilarious. But it also seems like Vishnu like knows for a fact where Kali is basically at all times, vaguely. So I think, I don't know. I think it's more likely that it's Kali than anybody else, given the direct reference to her. But I would not be surprised as well if it was Vishnu manipulating certain things to occur, especially with the end of the side story. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more like, I think it's a 60-40 chance it's Kali there, but I don't think it being Vishnu is out of the realm of possibility in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Man, there's so much to dig into. This was just so incredible. They said the universe cannot survive without a time axis. True. On that subject,
Naya didn't say this earlier. This side story is better than Wish.
I did say it. Right, I did say it. I said it's the best one.
Okay, good.
Gotcha. I think I started with that. It's the first thing I said, and I said that the side stories at this point are you can't ignore them. They're part of the main narrative. Like if you read every single chapter of Kubera, not these, you don't understand the story from top to
I
bottom.
agree.
On that subject, someone mentioned that Yuta saying that a universe without Lees is bound to disappear and could be proof that she became the time actress. Interesting. In Hindu mythology, it is said that Ananta Shisha, I'm sorry, I don't know, I butchered that. Uncoils. Listen, man, je parle français, anglais, c'est tout. Time moves forward and creation takes place. When he coils back, the universe ceases to exist. That's interesting. I don't think so. I'm not sure. Looking at the consequences, it could be very well be Vishnu. Kali is Vishnu's alter ego. That's my canon. Oh, maybe you said that wrong. Maybe you spelled it wrong. Haha, I didn't pronounce it wrong. Kali is Vishnu's heartless. Or nobody or something. That's funny to think about. But all right. Did I have anything else I want to say about this? No. So Ananta talks about the idea that did you guys ever consider the fact that by taking the person that that taught me, my mentor and my mate, and killing my motivation, that I wouldn't care about the universe? And I don't like Vishnu's answer, but I think it told us a lot about it. Like you said, I think it did a lot for his character. I didn't like that answer though. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know if everybody said.
Sorry. I did not hear what he said. I just looked at a trailer for Cocaine Bear, so I got distracted.
That's crazy. But so Ananta says, I may not have any such motive anymore since I've lost my mate. Have you never thought that I might give up on the universe after losing all motivation? And he says,
okay.
no, you never could. This is the universe your mate tried so hard to protect. Since you erased the history of all those efforts, shouldn't you at least make the result turn out a little bit better?
I
That
was
would be the
moved by
only
that.
atonement you could make for her. I couldn't believe he had the gall to say that to me. Like, what did I
was
do?
moved.
No,
I was moved.
I'm not. It's a powerful moment. I just know if I was Ananta, I would have swung. It's like, ain't no way you just said that to me after what happened. What did I do? I'm just here. I'm going along with it, and all of a sudden I got this power. She gets fucking bodied, and now you're like, all right, do better than her, bro. What? I would have been livid. I would have lost my mind. I would have taken full certification right there. Universe God. No, it was a cold line from him. I'm just saying.
I love that moment. That was actually one of the times when I saw like, damn, Vishnu, do you actually fucking care about the relationship between these two people?
That's kind of cold blooded. You gotta respect it in its own right.
Yep.
So they said not the cocaine bear. I don't even know what that is. Nah, he's gaslighting.
It's about a bear snorted like a bunch of cocaine.
That's okay. Cool, man. Top tier manipulations. That's it. That sentence made me think Vishnu could be the one that taught him. Fair enough. Also, the fact that he didn't actually answer Ananta's question, he just changed the subject and talked about Kali. Some great politicking right there and gaslighting and whatnot. But yes, he does talk about the third Primeval god after that at that moment. But it looks like Ananta just was fed up and said, "All right, man, I'm not getting no real answers here. Let me just go on my way." So
let me handle it.
I don't know, boy. All right. I kind of want to ask this question last, but I kind of want to ask it now. But I guess I'll wait. I'll put my meat away and put it on the table later. Okay, so the guilt. He felt guilty upon. Okay. Oh yes, I want to ask before that. What do you? So I always personally got this intuitive feeling that Ananta had a weird relationship with Sagara. Manasa Vins, I can't speak on so much. I never really thought about it. When the souls were being split and recreated in the name and stuff, Sagara is actually who came to my mind first, which is odd because Manasa Vins is so similar to the name Manasa, right? But it was Sagara who I thought about instantly, and I'm like, if I'm right, I just feel like their relationship and the way he treated her makes so much sense. How do you think he really feels about them when he looks at them all the time? I know it's at some point hard to feel guilty about the delusions and the previous universe he held near to his heart. But do you think that he kind of resents them in some way as a result of that, or do you think genuinely he has no real beef with them? He knows that that's on him because of what he knows and they don't.
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. But I legitimately also think because of that, he just physically cannot care about either of them, specifically Sagara, as much as he really should.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly what makes it so great as well. But it just, how would you feel if the love of your life legitimately was split into two different people after she died
Threesome.
that held qualities similar and different to her?
Threesome.
This man is wildin'.
Threesome.
This man is crazy.
No, I'll just be heartbroken. I wouldn't like them. I wouldn't talk to them. Like I
Yeah.
like I actually agree. Like I actually kind of respect him because I feel like he tried to do his best. I would avoid them all the time and not want to be around them. Like the pain that they would remind me of would be too much. But after the threesome,
This man is crazy.
so he. Where's the baseline thing that I had? Okay, what do you guys think about? Oh, before that, he starts to he like starts to hang out with Aravata and Yaksha a lot. I like that, so it kind of gives us reasons to why, because they were kind of like-minded individuals with him and whatnot. And
also, apparently, Vritra, based on the last chapter.
Yeah, there was that one panel, where they were like fighting
Yeah.
together, which was pretty cool. You know, he's like, don't follow me around too much. I need some alone time with my mate. And he started to think about what happens with Yaksha or whatever and everything. And this is the part about this conversation that I think is truly fascinating. And I want to know everyone's opinion in the chat. All of you say something. I know you in there. And you too, Glam. Do you think he's right to be using the baseline universe in which he came from as kind of like the pillar to build this universe upon? Or should he just do things differently? I actually think that's a very interesting question. Because it seems like, okay, he's like, all right, based on the previous, what I know in my delusion, right? Okay, this is what's going to happen. I can change it. My question is basically, should he be doing that and trying to kind of replicate it and kind of remake it, but make it better, or just go his own complete route and try to remake the universe completely differently from that it was previously? Because I don't necessarily agree with using it as a baseline. I think he should stop. I think you could argue he should stop. Sorry, I should say first.
I was gonna say, I think when he's looking at the baseline of what the universe is, he's like, okay, this happened in this portion of the universe, but it didn't really affect anything or help anything. So it's like, how can I make changes to that would be more beneficial to the universe as a whole? Aravata and Yaksha dying as early as they did were ultimately detrimental to the previous universe. So it was like, okay, I need to make sure these two people are still alive, at least for a while. And I agree with that, because like, what doesn't work? This. Let's fix it. I think that's a logical mindset to have. So, like, I'm honest to God, I think for a lot of the changes Ananta enacts, I think it's more so he bases it off of not even what's bad in the previous universe, but what he feels from his own personal code and own moral sensibilities is the right thing to do for these people, especially for Yaksha and Aravata. Because I think even though he tried to keep them around for the sake of the universe, I think he legitimately, like, these were his friends. These were the only people he could really spend time with, actively open up with, actively talk to on a regular basis, was Yaksha and Aravata. And I would also assume Kubera, because he's said multiple times that is his friend. We just didn't get to see it in this side story yet. So I think for those three people, I think it's very similar to Garuda. Garuda legitimately was friends with Vishnu, Shri, and I think to even a certain extent Gandharva, probably when he switched up his own moral attitude. I think Garuda and him had an active dynamic that they like pursued with each other. I think it's very similar to that.
Okay. Chat saying, hold on. What were they fighting against to have Vichu and Ananta together? By the way, we needed it. It would have been sick.
Apparently, there's some universal creatures that can just come out of fucking nowhere in this verse that don't have anything to do with Kelly. So
absolutely learn from past mistakes. Yes, I think when Manasa didn't try to stop Yaksha when he went on his rampage, as she knew she would die, or she couldn't stop him. Interesting. He should use the information available to him. He can definitely use it as a reference since there are many similarities, but since the Primevals are there from the beginning, he needs to accept a lot of stuff will change. He can't just ignore the previous universe and start from the beginning, because he can only rewind time a limited amount of times. That's true. He needs to use the knowledge he has to the previous universe. I think him using the information he has just makes sense, but like, to me, this is a question of kind of like keeping a status quo, standards and traditions, and it's kind of like revolutionary versus reformer, if you get what I mean. So I think about like the system or the machine that's in place, and I think sometimes with the way that like things have changed, it just doesn't work, and we got to tear it down and start it all over. and do something, or not to tear it down, but do something completely different from what's been done before. But I understand what's been done before has shown to work for so many years in so many ways. You want to replicate that, even if you have to tweak it and remix it ever so slightly, which I would say is the path that Ananta might be taking. So that's why I think the question is interesting, because I'm like, I don't know if like you using that universe as necessarily as like, okay, so this happened here, so maybe I'll try this. Okay, that didn't work, so maybe I'll try this. Okay, so that's what, like, I don't know if that works. Like I might look at it and just be like, what would I just want to do straight up, and then start from there instead of, and then maybe if that fails, maybe then I used the baseline universe as my reference. I don't think you guys are wrong, by the way. I just thought it was interesting to think about, because I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily immediately agree that that's the right way to go about this, because it didn't work. So, okay. Remember what else I was gonna do? What else is here? Is this correct? Oh yeah. So, let's get to tearing down everything is closer to Asha's path, at least in season 3. Fair enough. I think it's a noble thing to do, but I don't think Ananta cared about the consequences as much as he should have. But in the same vein, why wouldn't you want to build a better world if you had the ability to? Low. I don't think you understand human nature. Humans are not good people. Okay. I think there's a lot of people in the position to help the world be a much better place, and do they do that? No, they don't.
No.
I don't. I think a lot of people understand with no problems to solve. There's no. It makes it hard to profit in certain ways. So, I hear you. I mean, if you had the ability to make the world better, why wouldn't you? But a lot of people don't. So, you got not that these characters are always human, but anyways, the presence of Primevals makes his time traveling on hard mode even more than Manasa, because the amount of efforts are in every are effing up his possibilities, tearing everything down. There's Asha's Path season 3. Should definitely go back and save those he wants, because they give him motivation to go on now. He should definitely change the ways in which he goes because of the loops. He should try ruling over them at least once. That's interesting. To try to just rule them with the like iron fist. It's interesting. Or maybe he's a benevolent leader. Harsh but fair.
But fair.
Being able to look in the past dulled his abilities to see the possible future is interesting. I like that. That just sounds poetic. I think the opposite. He consults them, and when they get help, he gets to the right answer sometimes. He did try, but Vishnu is very cryptic. Brahma is lazy, and Shiva does not care. I agree with all that, and I don't like cryptic people, so like I just wouldn't talk to him anymore. I really wouldn't. So Ananta. So let's talk about the Yaksha portion. Sorry. So let's get there.
Oh boy.
This was crazy. First of all, I want to give credit. Go ahead.
Is it wild that I kind of want to say that Yaksha got more to his character for this side story than Ananta did?
Is it weird? No, I don't.
It might just be.
No, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I still think it did more for Ananta, but I get you. Like it'd be like a 1A 1B thing, if anything.
Yeah, that's where I feel it as. Legitimately, that's what I feel it as. But it's like part of me is like, damn, I can't believe how good this was for Yaksha.
So credit to you guys in the chat, and I believe Miles, who one of the first people that said in the chapter with Jambi way back with the Black Bear and the Firefox, I think it was called. Sorry if the name is wrong.
He said that Ananta's one messing with time.
Yes, when Yaksha had the delusions, if you will, or premonitions, if you will, of him killing his clansmates, he had actually done that multiple times in multiple different ways. But Ananta had rewritten that, so I want to give you all credit. You are all great prognosticators, and what you get is a nice. You get claps, round of applause.
You'll also get a nice dispute from me that I still think it being sort of hidden that Ananta did that is a bit of an odd decision, given how much we knew about him at the time, but it still works out fine.
Yeah, I think it came full circle anyways, but especially with the last side story in this bunch and bundle, so it was really dope. Mm-hmm. But I think what I want to do now, or look out for, because like I have a list of things to look out for when I'm doing my reread. I added characters who quite possibly have premonitions, illusions, or delusions of something happening, but it didn't happen. And I'm like, are these all instances of Ananta stopping them from doing something? I don't know if that did happen in the narrative more than once. I can't recall them off the top of my head, but that's something that I'm going to be
recall is Raltara in the Abyss with Maruna and Kubera.
Mhm.
when Yuta was approaching, she said there was something familiar about the event that was occurring, and then some sort of presence calling to her there.
Mm.
I'm not sure if that's a time. I mean, that's probably a time thing, and it might have to do with when she became Shiva, quote unquote, during the Cataclysm. But
Yeah.
hard to really say.
Uh, okay. Harsh. Oh, I thought you said harsh but fair sounds like God. However, for a second, like Garuda. That's cool. Cool with that. Jamba Van. I don't agree, but I understand. I mean, your own personal world. I told you. I'm still. Yeah, you were right.
Also,
I'm an
shout out
Indra
me for
fan,
saying that
so you're not a
Jambavan
good person.
interfered in the time stuff too. Called that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Like it was a really. It was kind of. It was kind of beautiful, but we gotta
Yeah, we'll
go.
get
We
to it.
gotta get through some of the hard stuff because there's a lot of pain here too. Some people think
Oh
that
my
the original Taraka soul could be in Yuta's body. I don't think you're the first person to say that to me. But okay. So he was informed about what's supposed to happen, yada yada blah blah. He thought about why Manasa didn't stop him, whatever, and he slaughtered all the Surs on the spot, including the fox, which is good for me. I don't like Shuri. I'm sorry, I don't
That
like
shit
her.
was goaded.
Right? And now this is what I think is really cool, right?
King
The
of the
king
land.
who had encountered his dismembered mate was already no longer able to differentiate friend from foe. King of the
Of the
land.
land.
Since he was a
Dog.
king who had suppressed his belligerent nature from the very beginning, it was only revealed that day he had such a unique transcendental. This ability, which activates with the king's wrath and subdues the surrounding land animals, resulted in the deaths of countless Suros and humans who were incapable of resisting or escaping him. In the face of unknown transcendental skill, the kings of other clans were reluctant to approach him.
Approach him.
Fuck.
Boy.
I said, damn, these
Yaksha!
Yaksha stocks?
Oh my
Jesus.
god.
Jesus Christ. I couldn't believe my eyes. So he said the great snake comes and calms him down, and then he self deletes, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Like he couldn't live with the guilt of everything that he had done in that moment by slaughtering his clansmates and whatnot. And there's part of me deep down. This is the personal tidbit I added. The meme, like actual thing about the character, shit I made up about the character, and the book is much
Oh
larger.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's one I
I
use all the
added
time.
I added John Bovan in my head, like he knows that she would be disappointed in him doing something like that, and she
Okay.
wouldn't agree with it, and that's the thing that like made him the most ashamed about his actions, despite the fact that they took her life in that way. That's the like little extra tidbit I add, like for my for my headcanon. I
The
slid that in
themes.
there.
The
Yeah,
shit I made up about them.
the thematical themes.
Medical themes.
How do you feel about this ability relative to the power system of the verse? You're 50-50 on it. I think it's a dope ability. I do
This
want to
shit's
read
raw.
it. I do want to read it in total one more time because I actually never got through the entire blog post of the very last chapter in my delusions when I with the Surah like nature or whatever it was, or like biology, something like
This
that.
actually
So I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it like on like live and talk about it here, because when I was doing a live reaction, something I had to do, so I had to cut that part off when I was reading through it. So I said I'll make sure it's like when I actually said it's the first thing I would start the discussion with. So I'm a fraud, but it'll still be in here.
this actually falls into what I've thought a couple times about the power levels of the kings. Because
Okay.
I've been on this for a while that Vritra and Ananta both are far and away above the others, but I also thought that Yaksha was also far and away above the others, but just to a lesser degree than Vritra and Ananta. And this just confirms it to me. This man Yaksha is significantly more different than the other four kings below him. And I think it makes sense that the kings that get the highest level of portrayal also all have specific broken abilities attributed to them. Like Ananta has his time stuff, Vritra has Fathomless Fire, and now Yaksha is King of the Land. And I think something similar might happen as we go into the story. If Genharva's path goes the way that it should go for the most ideal future, he might get an ability similar to this that not even he knows about. Although he
Yeah.
kind of already has one with Crystal Tears, a little bit, where it's very specific, but it's also very broken what he can do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, these kings like transcendentals are honestly crazy. But what was honestly super dope about it is that it was not known that he had this because he was able to kind of keep himself in check for so long. and not snap like that. Like no one knew he had this power, so it's kind of crazy to think about.
Frozen
Ashura's has
tears.
menaced society.
Yeah, but Ashra is just like, hey, I have 1 million people in my body. It's like, or 1 million lives in my body.
He may get a Shiva-like ability. Frozen tears, you mean? I think.
Yeah, frozen tears.
Yeah.
Tears.
What did you call them? Crystal tears? I thought that's what you meant. Anyways, I thought maybe when you were reading it, I thought maybe the Babel Kim sub or something that when.
No, I just forgot it was frozen.
Oh, okay. I just assumed it was one of those like Houndborn K9 people thing. That's why I didn't correct you. So,
Yeah.
So Yaksha, man. So I actually this part's so beautiful to me because first of all, you're seeing already he's getting frustrated with the time travel stuff and Ananta because he's like, what the hell? He doesn't understand what's going on, this and that, the third. So he approaches Jambi, and so you got to actually see her more often in her like more adultish form with the sepia tone stuff. So
what shall we do, my dear?
Right. And he comes to them and he's like, please breathe. He's on his trauma ray gimmick, like breathe, please. Right? And I really love that Yaksha's like, why aren't you? And Ananta's answer hurts my heart because he'll never have that. He's like, I can't find a mate. And I'm just like, bro, my heart, man. It doesn't matter how much he brings up someone like named Manasa or whatever, it doesn't exist. Like he really is the one person in this universe that remembers that. No one else does. And thus, as a result of that, he would be the deviant. And I just like, freak, bro. That hurts. That just sucks. But anyways, so they listened to him. And I love that he was so happy. We're like, yeah, did you see how happy he is when they agree to do it? Oh boy.
And then
what happens? Do you know what happens to a man when you give him extra hope and you rip it away from him all in one fell swoop? He was even happier as a result of probably having a kid, him and his wife, blah, blah, blah. And he lost all of that. The child and his mate. And he snapped even worse than he did if she just died naturally. Oh, not naturally, but died the way that was supposed to happen, kind of like originally. And gets a W on Ananta. It counts. I don't care what anyone. It counts. I don't care that he hesitated. I don't care that he couldn't certify because of King of the Land. Max plus turbo times 2. Nah, that's a W. It counts. He killed him. He got a W. It counts. Okay, we give Yaksha credit. And that
Yaksha
panel
top 1. Here comes the campaign.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going that far. I was like, and when it goes to the part and he died, I said, what? Like I thought the Primevals were gonna come in and interfere.
Nope.
But something far more interesting happens. He hits what me and Miles were calling a save state. He's got a save state on one of his game files where he goes all the way back to when Sagara and them are like gossiping about whoever's a mate or whatever. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Yeah.
And also, before we go any further, we've had this debate a couple times. I just wanted to say it. Yaksha, for sure, his serve form is more lion than wolf. I am convinced at this point.
Okay.
Like when you look at that form and when he's fighting Ananta, that face is way more feline than it is dog-like or canine rather.
I never saw him as like a dog personally, so I'd never
like that man is for sure a lion. I am convinced now that is what his serve form is. Which makes him and John Bond's pairing even better. The lion and the bear, husband and wife. Come on, man. That's just raw. But anyway, keep going.
It says Yaksha is a tiger. I think he's supposed to be a tiger, not a wolf. They're like, yeah, a white tiger. Tiger claw attack!
All the hair around him always made me think lion, but tiger's also in there too because of the white and the blue.
What if he's a liger?
I think he might just be a combo of all three, straight up.
What if he's a liger?
Might be.
He's on his Zanzis gimmick.
Might be raw. Raw liger.
Be a liger. All right, I don't know, but yeah. I really think this save state thing is super friggin' dope and cool. And I love this because he goes and he talks to the Primevals about it. Right? They say his will to live turned back time and that he didn't want to return to the beginning. He had to turn back time to before it became too dangerous or fight aggressively. And he says, was my will to live strong enough to cause this? The great had his doubts about himself, but since the ones telling him were the Primevals, he had no choice but to accept it. And basically, he goes to his mother. He said, "Liger's moving you." I love that. Good. That's my answer. He basically is like, "So what should we do?" And I think they actually logically come to a. Like this sounds really messed up, But as much, I actually agreed with their like assessment because they talked about
Yes.
paradise existing already, and like Jambavan was a kind and beautiful soul. At the very
Yep.
least, in the afterlife, she will not be suffering in some weird place. She will
Mhm.
she'll be there. So the best thing is to let her be the one that goes.
I actually think that there's a possibility that Yaksha himself is in paradise too, as of this moment in time.
Okay.
Because he hasn't really like I can't think of anything horrible because all Yaksha's done has been good for the universe. Like he's tried his best to bring like harmony and shit like that to like people that not even just Sirs. Like he's done the same thing that his wife did with humans, helping them out. He also did the little same thing that she did, which helps give birth to Ran when he gave the heart to a human being to help cure their disease.
Mm-hmm.
So he he had sort of the same ability as Jambavan did in that regard too.
Exactly. Katana, I'm gonna get there. I'm building to it. I'm building to that. I'm gonna get there. Don't worry. It's coming. I'm building it. Right? So they have that talk. So he does what I think is actually ballsy. This will be hard to do, but I respect it a lot. He goes straight to Jambavan and goes, I can't save you. Oh, I can't save one of you guys. Like, and he explains everything and like based on whatever. And before she just has any type of reaction, she goes, "I know this got to be hard on you, bro." I'm like, bro, she's so fucking awesome. She's been in like
Jambavan's the goat.
She's been in like 4 chapters, and
chapters.
I just love her so much. Like she
is also female Saha, like Manasa is to me. It's like, come on, man, this bitch is raw.
Yeah. And like he starts to kind of cry a bit because like it's obviously been hard for him, right? But she's awesome. So first we see Yama, he kind of younger, and he's like, hold on, who
Young
this?
lad.
He said, who this?
He's like, he said Nastica. What?
He said she bad, but she granted her for her last wish, and the king received the last dream made of her wishes and whatnot, and accepted the maid's death without going berserk, unlike before. Which was really awesome. Like I really thought that was kind of beautiful, right?
I also think that Yaksha has probably a heightened version of that too, with his connection to Ran, where I think he might be able to appear to Ran multiple times because the heart's still there.
Yeah.
So there's a part of him that's kind of still alive.
Yeah, it was tough. I think Curry confirmed that Yaksha went to the 0th dimension, but I need some confirmation on that. Jambavan consoling him. I cried. Was Ananta the strongest before or after he discovered time? I think that's a question that me and Miles have been asking ourselves. We're like, was he stronger than Manasa and everything? I think he was probably always kind of like super physically strong because his Sora form is actually like too big for the universe to like contain or something. So Yaksha possibly never killed anyone, not counting alternate timelines, so we should go to paradise. Curry makes such a character just to rub on their faces that she's gone, right? She's mean. I can't tell you. Somebody was in my Twitter section like she's too nice to be a Primeval, something like that. Like, you think she's nice? What story are we reading? I love Curry Gom. She's a fantastic writer, but she's definitely sipping on our tears. She got a cup. She got gallons. She got gallons full of the fan base's tears, and she revitalizes herself every morning by diving in them like Scrooge McDuck in his mountains of money, and keeps herself youthful based on our tears. Okay, that's what she's doing. All right, I'm convinced.
I also gotta say, if Asha still has that fucking Yaksha fur cloak, they need to get that shit away from her because that bitch does not deserve that shit.
No, she deserves it.
Get it away from her.
Nah, personally escorted her to Ran having the king of the land. Yeah, so okay. So let's get to the Rand part real quick. This part was insane to me, insanely beautiful. First of all, I just gotta kind of laugh where he's like, Eravata, no, I tried. Too bad. Like he did not try as hard. Like, I'm not even trying to say he didn't try. He's like, shit, you gotta go. But with Yaksha, he's like, oh, hell nah. You died here to him? Ain't no way. It's like, so he pulls up and he's like, hey, what's going on? And then he just gives him the Rand argument. And I'm like, I'm not mad at that. Like,
yep.
And I'm just like, I totally understood it, and I think Ananta knew he had to accept his friend's decision in that sense, which I know was hard for him because he's just slowly losing the people that he is somewhat connected to that can maybe someone understand him in any way, shape, or form, and I think that's tough.
This, without a doubt, confirms to me that he viewed Ran as the son he could never have. Because I actually think that there might have been a chance that he also viewed the delusion of him and Jambavan having a kid at a certain point too.
Okay, that's interesting. And there's a panel here of Ritra and Ananta here again.
Yeah, that was surprising me. I was like, Ritra and Ananta working together multiple times?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah. And he says, if I get my heart back or survive here, the relationship formed with the human will become an error and disappear. It would be as if the pillar of my life for billions of years never existed from the beginning. If that's the case, then I will give up on a future encounter and preserve the relationship of the past. I just thought that was such a power. Like he's great, man. Yaksha's great, bro. Yaksha's just great. I don't even have the I don't know if I have enough. I don't know enough like kind things to say about him. Like he's amazing.
Yaksha is literally
yeah.
He's like a top 10 character in the story for me, but still not ranked top 10 because there's so many fucking good characters.
It is. It is what it is, but yeah, but he's awesome. Oh man. Nah, you know Yama personally extorted her too, having I got that. Curry almost had me crying at work. Effing bully. She got me crying sometimes. She's me, even in the Q&A, someone asked which protagonist would die. She said she'd kill a protagonist previously, and she answered with, I never said one protagonist would die. Yeah, that's all. She said 9. 1 lives. So yeah, top 1 Nasuka. I'm not mad at that. Okay. So now he gave him the rest of his life, and Ananta was just kind of like, I think he goes to the gods. They were collecting his friend's body. The primeval god standing behind him was smiling. Ananta, don't be so heartbroken after it was necessary for the sake of this universe. No matter what other possibilities you search, there won't be a better choice than this. The life that he had saved in good faith, the choice that he had believed to be better than the universe and the delusion, billions of years of effort, all fell into the hands of that god. And he basically like, we all die, bro. Fuck this. We're all going together. We shall go together. And he's like, let us simply die. And I'm like, that's interesting. Back to the save state. And I said, hey, yo. And then he's like, his survival instinct was wholly independent of his own will. The great snake cried. Some knew that it would. Since he knew it would end like this, since he knew there was no better path, since he couldn't even give up and run away. And I want to talk about this for a second. Then I'll get to the blog part.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think this could be a red herring a little bit. And here's what I mean. First, let me just read the comics first. I don't want to get distracted. She's me with Q&As, top 1. Yeah, because I'm my 4th favorite character. They collected my guy's bones, and I'll end them all. Checked, and it was Tiara who said this, so it'll be a reliable source for Yaksha's with the tears. We can't even have that. Okay, so.
Also, just because you read the comments, Sandman, who I just got on the story, and he's now caught up. Just off of this chapter, like he liked Yaksha a lot. Off of this last chapter, Yaksha became the 2nd favorite character of the whole fucking story.
There you go. and I understand it. Like Yam was probably the one who like had just been stealthily climbing because I never disliked him, but just like these moments that happen. But Yaksha has like always been up there, you know. But okay, I personally think Ananta is underestimating his attachment to life, despite all the tragedies and hardships that he has to face. This is me just speaking as for me. This is my opinion on this, right? And I admit that this is because I actually don't like the idea of his survival instinct being independent of his own will. I believe this ties into the shedding of time, what I call a natural lingering will, the thing that Asha runs into in that the records of time world with the scrolls and everything. Mm-hmm. And remember at the end of Ananta where it talks about how the survival of the fittest, the will and the need and the want to survive is not reserved for just the weak. The strong want to survive too. I think that's such a powerful line and powerful moment that I love, which I think would be weakened if it's not his choice. Anytime he dies or wants to die, some phenomenon just sends him back to a safe state where he's saved. I think that cheapens that ruins that scene for me. So I don't like the idea. I think though personally, he's actually underestimated. Because I think it makes what makes this obvious to me is where it says I want to. Remember what it says I want to live on one of those scrolls. Mm-hmm. I think when that moment fully truly came, when he knew there was going to be no way out of it, and it happened, I do think that he ultimately was like, no, I do want to live. I do want to be alive, but I can't be. So I'm hoping that he's just not understanding that he does care about living At least at this point in time, I understand why he's feeling the way that he's feeling. But if it really is independent of his own will, I actually don't like that, and I think it's a knock against the series and character. Personally speaking,
I think
that's not even a nitpick to me. I think that's a bad decision.
I think if it is independent, because you and I talked about this very briefly, but I think if it is independent of his own will, this is a launching pad into how his character progresses from this point. Because I think he is noticeably different from this point in time in comparison to when we see him later in the story.
I agree.
Because he still has not met Rao. We have seen neither hide nor hair of this alleged friendship with Kubera that's been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is independent of his will, that means that he should not have died whenever Kubera killed him with the name-changing spear. So something if this is independent of his will, I think Ananta essentially, like, in this moment, he legitimately wanted to die. But he will learn from that, like, no, life is important. I can't just go whenever I want. There's a time and a place where I need to go, and certain things have to occur. So because this features also into what I think, like, I legitimately think it was his idea for Kubera to kill him. Because, like, this has to happen. This has to happen and I think Kubera was like, I don't want to do this. But it's like, you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I certainly believe as well that, like, Kubera's abilities over time feature into this. How he's able to see the future better than a lot of other gods are. How he's able to interact with time better than a lot of the other gods are. I legitimately think there's enough evidence here to suggest that based off of this, Ananta's personality changes a lot from his interactions with Rao and Kubera, and there's a high chance that Kubera himself, for a period of time, was the axis of time. Now I think that might also have something to do with how his name's power was distributed to people, how much importance it has, and now because of how Lise has 3 names of him and Ananta, how she might be the axis now, as well as with Varuna now that he's in 5th stage. Like, the ending of this side story is just like this. All of this stuff where we leave off from here has to be talked about in the main story. Like, a lot of this is just too important in terms of what Ananta's future from this point on is. Because there's a lot of unanswered space between where we see from here and where we see him during Weight of Time on the side of the story, Enemy, and Ananta. There's a lot to, like, look at there.
Yeah, I agree.
But if it is just, like, not addressed and that just exists and, like, I can only get out of this if you stab me with the spear, I agree with you. Like, I think if this thing is used as a way for, hey, this is something we can remove from me, and I learn a lesson from it, is this being independent of him good? Otherwise, I agree with you that it's bad.
Yeah, because so let's go to my second lap, right? First is I thought it was a subconscious thing. I think that's fair. It's subconscious. Like I'm saying, like he thinks he wants to die, but really he doesn't. That's what I'm saying. Like I think that happens with some people. One thing that I found in common with a lot of like self-deletion stories or attempts that I've read with a lot of people is the number one common denominator and overlap I found with all these stories is, let's say someone was like 19 and jumped from a building. It's in that moment they regret the decision to do it, because everything in their life could have been solved except for the fact that now they're plummeting to the ground at max speed with nothing to stop them from doing that. And they're grateful for surviving. That's a very common story that I see with self-deletion. So I just wonder if he was just in a similar trap. It happens. Like I could even sit here and look to you at one point in my life. I was suffering from suicidal ideation a little bit, right? So like it happens, right? But ultimately you fight on, you go on, and you find more reasons to live. I think you talking about Rao is a possible motivator and stuff, and maybe even Kubera. I think throughout maybe past the point of what he didn't know anymore, he may have been able to find a couple of things that he cared about and liked enough to try to protect and preserve and things of that nature.
It might also be that even up until this point in the story, he may not have valued his own life in particular, because I don't think we really get to see much indication of that. Like, he values the lives of others, but as soon as they're out of the picture, like we see even with Aravata, like he wants to keep it there, but she's like, no, I gotta go, man. Like, you gotta let Kanara take my name. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think there's really indication here at all that Ananta cares about himself. And I think that makes sense given, like, everything that he had has been taken from him.
Yeah.
Manasa, Yaksha, Aravata, that's all gone.
So Katana asked, do you think this survival instinct of his is what the shedding is acting on? Possibly. I think at this point, they're in tandem. I think there comes
the shedding plays a part in this. Yeah. 100%.
Yes, I think the survival and the will to live, even though you're very strong, is that like concept. I think what is possible is that at some point in time he was able to detach that from himself. I'm not sure how or why. Maybe he didn't do it and someone did, but I think it's possible that in order for him to actually perish, he had to discard his will to live, and that's what became Ananta's lingering will, the shedding of time, whatever it is you want to call it.
And he would have also had to discard that in a way that isn't detrimental to his overall like mental health and like physical well-being. Like it's like an acceptance thing, not a denial thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. There was a lot going on there, but
absolutely incredible.
I'm not even done. Like I have to ask the ultimate question. Not the ultimate question, but the question that I had to ask. I found myself asking myself. Well, Jesus Christ, I said myself like 8 times in one sentence. After reading this chapter, is Ananta the most tragic character in Kubera?
Ooh,
and when you think about a lot of characters who go through a lot, and like I think you can make a case for a lot of them, but I asked myself, I'm like, I think he suffered the most out of any character in the series.
I think it's by the end of the story, it's probably gonna be Lee's. Right. But that's because people keep telling us that that's going to be the case. Now that the amount of suffering she go through continually changes. We keep seeing that over and over and over again. But as of right now, I really think the only other argument might be Brilith. As of right now,
that's actually funny you say that's who I was thinking of. Lee's too. I know a lot of people have been through a lot of hardship in this world. Like, trust me, I know there's probably just like the random ancient human or someone who just life has just sucked. So I have a second way of asking this question, but I still want to talk about in general. But I have concluded that it's Ananta, though. I think it is. As of right now, I don't think any character has had to suffer more than he does. He has had to suffer. So. The actual that is you have to mention, he became enlightened and left it there. I was thinking what put it survival. Wait,
he became enlightened.
Hold on. Why do I think Maruna is the axis? I think Maruna and Lee's
co-axis. Probably.
I don't like in my head, no one being would be strong enough to do that. So it has something to do with the way that he could absorb the scroll
and turned Fitz Zen and was able to handle it. Like he could handle it.
Yeah, and handle it. When Lee's came back to do that, where I'm like, is this some weird thing where Loki is together? They're the ones that are able to carry on or carry out what Anata's role is supposed to be here.
Yeah,
I think you made a good case talking about the God of Earth. I think that's fair. But I'm not saying I'm right. It's just kind of like a very menial thought I had in passing where I'm like, it was supposed to be Rao, but because it can't be Rao, it's gonna be Maruna and Lee's now.
Yep.
Time Lee's so that's kind of where I went there. I think his survival instinct in Ananta is Vishnu when he told Ananta to shoulder Manasa's responsibility now until he cannot just abandon his responsibility for billions of years. You think he implied that? See, I don't like that. I don't like that. If that's true,
that's ass.
I think that's lame.
Vishnu literally put some shit in him. Nah,
that's like the needle in Kilowa's brain to run away. I hate that. That's whack. I'm not. That's not moving me personally. He became enlightened and left it there. Yaksha went to the zero dimension. Yes, I see a lot of parallels between him and Lee's. I actually think you could argue that Manasa or Ananta. I think Manasa or retroactively because of dramatic irony. We know she did a lot of rewriting. I think you could add her there, but we didn't see it. So that'll just be that's like you ever play a game and read a story where I'm being bullied, but you just read text so you don't see it, so it just doesn't resonate. It's kind of like that. But I think that's fair though. That's a good argument. Fair enough. The axis thing might explain the hair color change. Oh, because he has that weird Kubera nighttime glow sometimes, whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Didn't Vishnu say there's only ever one axis? Ananta became an axis only after Manasa. Maybe you're right. Again, I'm not saying I'm right. It's just where my mind went.
That could have been the case for beings of Ananta's power. Yeah. I don't time seems like I said, if time is a thing in this universe that's equivalent to the attributes of the 7 natural gods.
I also feel like I'm being misquoted. I don't think he's the literal time axis. I've never said that. I said in tandem with Time Lord Lee's. And Kubera, because of the way that I saw Maruna absorb the black ink off the scrolls of time or the records of time or whatever, I felt like in that moment perhaps they together could do what Ananta was doing by himself, because no one person could do it. Like if I'm giving you the easiest comparison that I made in that moment in my head, it was L to Nier and Mello. Nier and Mello together could do what L could do by himself, but independently they're not as good as what L can do. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even, I know that's wrong. I'm sure that's wrong. Like I feel like we're harping on this, but okay. So I think Anata's the most tragic character. But the reason that I actually think that is because ultimately he would have lived the longest and seen the most atrocities and have to rewrite it, have to relive it, go through it again, and like sometimes he couldn't fix it, or even though he finds the best possibility, it sucks and it's tragic and he has to kind of suffer that alone. No one else could really truly understand that, and he had to live with the fact that his mate died at the beginning of the universe, or got her existence erased, Hakkai'd, if you will, and he's the only one who remembers her, and he'll never be able to love anybody as a result of that. And then like the fact that at some point he was gonna die because of the sins or whatever, the bystander be gone. I said bystander be gone. The bystander rule. But you're talking about the line about the bystander, right? But if I switch a question like this, in terms of like most tragic characters, but relative to their time, because ultimately a human just can't live that long. So take into account time, like the amount of time that they all live. So take like a pure blood, a quarter, a half, a Nasuka, if you will, Asuka. Like now add in the time period, the time framing. Does that answer change for anybody? Does it now change to Lee's into like 30 years she lived? It was so hard for her, like, because I still think it's Ananta.
I think the only argument's Brilith.
Okay,
that's it.
Okay, because with her, it has that length too, with multiple lives, which I think.
And all of her lives have been shit. At least ones that like matter.
Yes. Okay, I hear that. He's weighted down by his delusions. There's that too, I suppose. But yeah, that's kind of the thing. I think I'm probably end up making a video on who I think the most tragic character is in the series. But yeah, man, I gotta say though, this batch of side stories were really good. I think Love Letter was the only one where like I don't even like I want to make it clear, like I don't even think the chapter was bad. It was just like very forgettable, and like I just don't think I particularly learned anything new. There were small little things that I thought was cool. I liked wow, what's her name? Aline. I almost said Aline, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Line, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Like her little line to like Saha and stuff, and seeing Saha always puts a little smile on my face and things like that. But this was good, man, and this one just felt a lot more cohesive and together. Like they were meant to all be read like one after another, not like randomly kind of thing, like not sporadically. And there's a little bit of bleed over and trickle down effect into all of them, and then all the back to my delusions, which shocked me because this like Abyss and like Ananta happened, and like Ananta was there for so long. I just didn't foresee us coming back to focus on him, and I just think the idea that he had a mentor is super cool. Like I like that, and like that was like his mate, and it kind of explains why he didn't have no kids or made anybody or even get down to Trara at all. It's like I lost her, and nobody will ever get that. Understand that. No one knows who that is. That's not a truth of this universe. It's tough. It ain't easy. The Kasak and Ari callback panel was nice in Love Letter. Yeah, I like that's probably one of my favorite moments too. The scene was mentioned in season. I remember that because after they're talking about resurrection, and then it goes to like there was the Claude. I think Claude was also chasing after Irie and stuff too. I'm like, that's crazy. I thought we were gonna go into that, but we didn't. So
somebody said that Yaksha achieved enlightenment after going to the 0th dimension, right? In the chat,
I think I read that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't confirm or deny. I don't remember. Maybe it's
true.
But
like, if you achieve enlightenment, like where do you go after that? Would you just go to paradise as well after getting enlightenment? I think you gain access to paradise if you are enlightened.
So me and Miles were talking about, we were reading the In Defense of Brahma and Vishnu stuff, and we don't think that those things necessarily correlate. I think you could be enlightened and have sins, or enlightened and not go to paradise. I think paradise is for people who are virtuous without sin, who are good people who live the life for others, who are like
wait a minute,
things of that nature, right? Enlightenment is like going to the top.
Yeah.
And then like I don't think they're like. I think you could be enlightened and not a great person. It's basically what I'm saying.
I agree with that, because I remember Agni was like the only fifth sen that could get into paradise. All the other ones were just enlightened still, if I recall. That was a statement.
Yeah.
That's
So
why he had Paradisal Flare. That's right.
are we all ready for Kubera? I'm actually very excited to go back to
This is
mainline
mine
story
and
stuff.
Naya's time, man.
Yeah, yeah, and we're hoping it's like again as straight up and
Please,
as basic as it should be, which are just Lee's and God
please,
of Earth. That's all I don't want it to be
please,
some secret Kubera we don't know about us to have. No, I don't want that. I don't want it to be Lila. Not
please.
Lila. Nobody with that
No
name.
Saha.
I want high
Lee's
ass Lee's and I
God of
want God of
Earth.
Earth Kubera. That's what I want. Like I'm very excited for it. I'm super pumped. I'm
Please, I
pumped.
need
I'm
it.
pumped to come back. These side stories have been incredible. I love them, but it's time. It's time. So yeah. I know that you survived as you have to mention if you're enlightened. That's why Agnes didn't die when Vitra hit him with the fathomless fire. As you have to mention is where souls of Nastikas are annihilated, so no way Yaksha got enlightenment. Oh shit.
After going there, okay.
I might have to just refresh my memory in those dimensions.
There's no way that Yaksha doesn't have access to paradise.
If we know for a fact if stuff is rewritten, like you don't get like accumulated, like that is like it didn't happen because it's not a truth in the
Accumulated
universe, so
sins.
it's fine. Or like, could it be like, well, technically in these 16 timelines, you did bomb this continent,
Well, if the Primevals didn't even know
or
that,
got like,
then
but it got rewritten because of I don't know, but
it depends on how time interacts with what Yama can determine and undetermined.
Yeah.
Because we know that he has control over what certain amounts of sins can dictate for a person. It's not like
Yeah.
total, but he has some amount of control.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any final things to say about In My Delusions 1, 2, or 3, or any of the side stories in general and stuff?
These side stories have been very helpful to a lot of characters. Like a lot of them.
A lot of character stocks have gone up, and even the ones who were like kind of newly introduced, despite them not necessarily having like a lot of screen time, I think were powerful. I think Manasa is the one that I'm personally putting a lot more importance on, just because I know she held the Ananta role, which I hold in high regard, and I still think she is important. But like her, like I really like didn't see.
Like out of all
Jambavan,
the characters
I could still
that
see
benefited,
a lot of the like effects that she's had on the people around. Like Yaksha, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say like Shuri got a lot from this. Yaksha and Ananta, of course, got a lot from this. Shiva got a metric dickload from this, but also I got it like Vayu and Yama benefited greatly from these side stories, character-wise, for me.
Yes,
like they both got a ton from this.
You know, Yama's already the best god, but you know,
all right, but
same. I mean, we the hell doing that paperwork, dog. So much lore. Greatest side story I ever read. You might be right. I don't know what other side stories would I come to like. I don't know, Empowered, maybe some stuff for like Fables or whatever. But like, I gotta tell you, if this is a side story, that's crazy to me. Like I said earlier, you can't be a Kubera fan and not read these. They're too important.
In My Delusions has potential to be rated as like a top 5 arc just in the story period for me. Like it has to fight to get there, but I think it's in the discussion.
Yeah, man, that was really good. But they say no spoilers about the content of the chapter, but it's good-ish. So it starts off fast. Okay, good to know. He hits the ground running. So you know what? I don't think I would have had that thought. I think Kurigama is one of those like writers right now and creators that are in a good space with me, where you'd have to really mess up for me to press exit out. You know. Patreon gang, shout out to the Patreon gang, yes sir. Shout out to my certified BAM lovers. You know I appreciate y'all deeply. Gotta give a big shout out to the Priest of Fire. That's the real CBL Brilliant gang. You already know what it is, but especially gonna give a huge thank you to my tier 3s, the 5th Zen Gods. Shout out to Zodiac, Sonny Katapali, Simi, Silo, Shoddy to your body, Scobe, Revenant, Lucky Roo, Lazy Dragon, Chris, Johnny Rogers, Jacob Holland, Irene Sharda, Fitz, Triss, and my boy Abdel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you.